Start. Go ahead.
Well, there are a couple of things. A couple of weekends ago, there were a few of us in the community who were able to get together to study this book for the first time. Because one of the things that we would always like to do is that a study circle starts with at least one or two participants who have actually gone through the unit previously. So that's why Peggy, Behrus, Jennifer, and I, and also Sue Munshi joined us. We got together with Oliver and Don Thomas, and they walked us through this whole unit, which is 18 sections. So as I kind of alluded to in my little note that I sent out last night, I know it was a little late, I'm sorry about that. Should have sent it a few days earlier. Every time we get together, we will spend time turning to God in devotions. But I'd like to give everybody here a chance to do that. Today, Peggy prepared 4 readings and a song. So the next time we're going to get together is on June 1st, because originally Umberto and Marlena and I had agreed on 4 times, 3 in June and this one time. That worked for everybody's schedule. We may decide at the end of our last June time meeting that we need more time. So if everyone could write down today, May 11th, the next time is June 1st. The next time is, after that would be June 8th. And then the 4th time that we've planned is June 22nd.
22nd?
22. So we'll skip 1 week in between there. So May 11,
Yeah.
June 1, June 8, June 22. If we need time after those 4 sessions to continue, we'll talk about it in June, okay, as we move along. So for this one, Peggy prepared the devotionals. Can I have 1 or 2 volunteers to prepare devotionals for June 1st? Okay, Tana. June 8th? Marlena and Umberto? Okay. And Mariella and Sean, will you prepare devotions for June 22nd?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, as you see, it doesn't have to take that much time, but we have to begin all our practice of consultation by turning to God in prayer. So that's the beginning. All right. So that's great. The next component is we will do some kind of, it'll be a surprise. Either Jennifer will choose, or I will choose, or Peggy will choose. We'll do something, not a puzzle again, but something that has us working together, okay, to complete a task in that way. Another part of the component of every time that we get together is that we're hoping that people after today, because some people just got the book today, will be able to read ahead a little bit. And so we don't necessarily have to spend the time together doing the readings. And then there are some activities. So for this first 4 sections, which I think if we get through 4 tonight, we're going to be doing very well. In this next sections, as I wrote in the note, in Unit 2, Book 10, we have section 1 through 4, and that's to the 4 ends at the top of page 9. In section 2, there's a question number 1 in section 2 that is referring back to the quotation and filling in those blanks. And so when you're reading ahead, we'll try to get to that tonight, of course, and then I will tell you which one's in the next section. But that's one that kind of complete on your own type thing, because you go back to the quote and you find the answers together.
And let me comment on that. If we were to go through and read all the answers out loud to you, it might seem faster. Well, good, we get it all done. But the point of this is not getting it done. The point of it is for us to deepen. And so the value of going through these exercises and going back to the quote is that it makes you really think about the quote. It makes it get in your head and help you to remember it. And that's why we don't want to just go through and read the answers out loud, but we encourage you to do it on your own. If somebody's really having a hard time with it, we have the answers. If you need us to copy it or scan it or send it to you, of course we'd be happy to do that. And those who aren't here physically might appreciate being able to do that, and we'll be glad to accommodate. But we want to give you the chance to have that value of going through it yourself. And then there's still some discussion that we can have that goes with it.
Thank you. Okay. So then, what we want to do as part of all of this is actually practice each session consulting. And so John, bless his heart, has already put together some scenarios that he has, and since I didn't know if we were going to be able to project anything, I did copy off one, so that hopefully we will start actually each time practicing having consultation on some made-up scenario, or maybe there'll be something that will come up or that we'll decide that that's an actual real issue that we want to consult about as a group and make concrete plans and decisions and things like that. But for today, we'll use one of the scenarios John has provided for us. Yes.
And another thing, Sylvania Baha'i Community has been working with the local Bridges Out of Poverty organization, the Impact Coalition, and we've signed on to something called the Charity Tracker. And Charity Tracker is used by people, different agencies in northwestern Ohio who are dealing with people in poverty to record progress of individuals on their quest to exit poverty. And it's nothing more than goal setting and being able to keep track on individuals on how well they're meeting their goals. The Charity Tracker is also capable of assessing the agencies themselves for continuous improvement. In other words, if an agency wanted to gain a skill in a specific area, then progress on that agency getting that skill is recorded. And when that skill is mastered, then it is used in Charity Tracker as a way in which to announce to other organizations, you've got this skill that you would be able to help other people. So that being said, Sylvania Baha'i Community has agreed to go into this and start using that Charity Tracker. And since consultation is going to be a skill, and a skill is a proficiency based upon practice, if individuals want to be recognized as proficient in terms of consultation, then we can also use the segments in the online segment in order to get that proficiency and also have their names recorded as a resource person to the greater community on helping other people through consultation to achieve their particular goals, whether those goals would be exiting out of poverty or maybe doing an improvement on their own condition. So if anybody's interested in that, on not only the scenarios, there's also going to be a reflection of the scenarios that you just did, and that is able to be printed out. And if you fill in the blanks and put your name and a date of accomplishment, then we can use that as a way in which to say you've attended this, and we can put that out there on Charity Tracker, and you would be able to be identified as a person, a resource person that other agencies could go to in order to solve problems with the consultation technique.
Thank you. Having said that, just a quick show of hands for any individuals here who've had the bounty privilege to serve on any Baha'i administrative institution or committee in the past, if you have served in the past. Okay. So those that, yes.
Mariella didn't hear.
Oh, didn't understand. Okay. Can you explain, Humberto, my question? Baha'i Administrative Committee or institution?
Que si has participado en algún comité Baha'i o institución en el pasado.
Yes, okay. So I don't know if in Spain, but there's something that is called this. It's all online now, but we've had this old version for a long, long time. So those who've served on local spiritual assemblies have something called the guidelines for local spiritual assemblies, and this is all available to institutions and committees now electronically, you know, but this was in the old days that we had things printed out. There's a whole section in here, section 4, on ta-da, consultation. And so for many of us, many of the quotations that we've seen here, we've seen before, but not all of them, and not recently, and it doesn't hurt to study this again and again, because it's not just for institutions. Baha'u'llah has said, consult in all things, right? So in all things, we should learn this art and science of consultation. So I just wanted to draw that to everybody's attention. And so I think we're going to start out, but we're going to stop when I think we need a little bit of time to do a consultation practice, okay? But right now we'll start with section 1 on page 1. And since some did not get the book and have a chance to read ahead, and I apologize to Mariella and Marlena, they were not able to get me the Spanish versions, but if we need a little bit of help, you can let me know.
Thank you.
You can take picture and put it in your translator.
Yes, sure.
And thank God for iPhones and all of these wonderful things. So Deb, would you like to start with the reading?
You want the quote or the paragraph?
I think we're going to read the whole thing this time, and then we'll give everybody assignment for reading ahead for next time. So we'll get to where we get to.
The explorations we undertook in the first unit of this book shed light on two interrelated concepts, which are fundamental to the pattern of activity fostered by the global plans of the faith. That on the path of service to the cause of, and to humanity, we accompany one another, and that as we do so, we learn together in action. Although not necessarily explicit, the principle of Baha'i consultation and adherence to it greatly influenced our discussion of these two concepts. In this second unit, we take up the subject of consultation in earnest, with the hope that our deliberations will make clear just how essential the principle is to steady progress in all areas of our collective life. In the third unit, we will examine the dynamics of membership on the area teaching committee, and we'll try to see how this paramount principle finds expression in the work of the consultative body. Let us begin by reading and reflecting on the following exhortations of Allah. The Great Being saith, the heaven of divine wisdom is illumined with the two luminaries of consultation and compassion. Take ye counsel together in all matters, inasmuch as consultation is the lamp of guidance which leadeth the way and is the bestower of understanding. Not long ago, this most sublime word was revealed in the crimson book of the all-glorious pen. The heaven of divine wisdom is illuminated with two luminaries, consultation and compassion. Please God, everyone may be enabled to observe this weighty and blessed word. Consultation bestoweth greater awareness and transmuteth conjecture into certitude. It is the shining light which in the dark world leadeth the way and guideth. For everything there is and will continue to be a station of perfection and maturity. The maturity of the gift of understanding is made manifest through consultation. In all things it is necessary to consult. This matter should be forcibly stressed by thee, so that consultation may be observed by all. The intent of what hath been revealed from the pen of the Most High is that consultation may be fully carried out among the friends, inasmuch as it is and will always be a cause of awareness and of awakening, and the source of good and well-being. Say, no man can attain his true station except through his justice. No power can exist except through unity. No welfare or no well-being can be attained except through consultation.
Okay, so let's stop here. There are many, many terms and ideas in all these passages from Baha'u'llah. Is there something you wanted to say?
I just wanted to say, as I read through this, one word I highlighted, and that's the word observe. And that's in the second quotation. And what that indicates to me is that consultation is a law, and we should observe that law. And true freedom is obedience to the laws.
Any other thoughts?
What struck in my mind was the first quotation, and is illuminated with the two luminaries of consultation and compassion. Both of them are used, but compassion involves a set of behaviors, and they need to be defined versus what constitutes uncompassionate behavior. And of course, with the compassionate behavior, we're looking at the virtues. We're looking at the characters, of which there's a reference to justice, and justice being one of the attributes of compassion.
Anything else?
This always fascinates me. No power can exist except through unity. That just gives you a lot to think about, whether it's electricity or it's the power of consultation or spiritual powers. There has to be unity for it to work. And that's being emphasized in this section.
And the next sentence says, no welfare, no well-being can be attained except through consultation. So isn't that why we have to have love and unity amongst us, and then consult together? So.
I have a question on that. When Allah says that that the heaven of divine wisdom is illumined, what two luminaries, the whole concept of the luminaries, which consultation, compassion produce, what is that luminary? What we understand of that luminary is?
The next paragraph kind of talks about it.
Also, the word conjecture is used, and conjecture is pretty much the modus operandi of existing plans.
Of existing what?
Existing planning committees, conjecture rather than going into maybe more definitive reasons why things happen. It's people's conjecture or biases that they think happen, or they think is the cause.
We start with conjecture, and then we gradually, through consultation, become to certainty. So the initial step is just guessing.
Taking a guess,
Yeah.
but carrying it to the next step.
But going back to luminaries, the way I understand it, I mean very limited, of course, is where becomes we able to see it with our own eyes. In other words, nothing can be understood without the light. In other words, we see and we understand. So we have to have consultation, and compassion is allow us to have understanding.
Anything else? Christy, will you read?
The exhortations above refer to consultation in the most exalted term, and we should ask ourselves, what is this luminary to which Baha'u'llah attaches so much importance? Of course, we frequently use the word consultation in everyday conversation. We may consult this or that book or with such and such a person. We may participate in consultative meetings in our workplace. And public consultations may be held in our villages and towns from time to time. Today, so many spheres of human endeavor lead themselves to some kind of consultation, and educational establishments and governments, businesses and organizations of civil society often pride themselves on their ability to incorporate the concept in one form or another into their operations. Yet none of the commonly held notions of what it means to consult seem to suggest the process envisioned by Baha'u'llah, which transmutes conjecture into certitude, which makes manifest the maturity of the gift of understanding, which is a cause of awareness and of awakening. Not even does the goal of reaching consensus through a consultative process, praiseworthy as it is, appear to encapsulate the meaning of Baha'u'llah's words. We must be willing then to explore at a most profound level the concept of consultation if we are to gain insights into the process as he has conceived it. Given the centrality of the exhortations to our discussions in this unit, you may wish to take the opportunity to read through the quotations in this section several times as part of your initial reflections.
And I'd also like to suggest you might want to put a title for each section. And so as you look at this section and what it's about, what title would you suggest?
That first section that we just finished. Anybody have a suggestion?
I would suggest orientation.
Well, I put consultation, a lamp of guidance and bestower of understanding. I also want to comment, these books were not bound together very well, and so they tend to fall apart.
As you see, I've got mine by clips.
Yeah, so they're coming apart. So next time when I come, I have a machine that allows you to put one of those plastic comb binders on it. We can punch the holes and put them together if you would like. And that would be something we'd have to do before we actually start. So we'll put it somewhere where you can individually do them. And it's falling apart that way.
Okay, Tana.
It is clear that in order to explore adequately the Baha'i conception of consultation, we will need to examine the process from various angles, progressively describe its characteristics, and discuss time and again the concepts that underlie the operation of this principle so vital to Baha'i life. As a first step, let us consider the statement below from a letter written on behalf of the Universal House of Justice. Consultation has been ordained by Baha'u'llah as the means by which agreement is to be reached and a collective course of action defined. Many of the passages that tell us how the process of reaching agreement and defining a course of action should work in practice were revealed by Abdu'l-Baha and later expounded by the Guardian in the context of spiritual assemblies. Yet the truths enshrined in these passages apply equally to the consultative process in general. Regarding this process, you are already familiar with the following words of Abdu'l-Baha. They must, when coming together, turn their faces to the kingdom on high and ask aid from the realm of glory. They must then proceed with the utmost devotion, courtesy, dignity, care, and moderation to express their views. They must in every matter search out the truth and not insist upon their own opinion. For stubbornness and persistence in one's views will lead ultimately to discord and wrangling, and the truth will remain hidden. The honored members must with all freedom express their own thoughts, and it is in no wise permissible for one to belittle the thought of another. Nay, he must with moderation set forth the truth. And should differences of opinion arise, a majority of voices must prevail, and all must obey and submit to the majority. It is again not permitted that any one of the honored members object to or censure, whether in or out of the meeting, any decision arrived at previously, though that decision be not right, for such criticism would prevent any decision from being enforced. In short, whatsoever thing is arranged in harmony and with love and purity of motive, its result is light. And should the least trace of estrangement prevail, the result shall be darkness upon darkness. Should they endeavor to fulfill these conditions, the grace of the Holy Spirit shall be vouchsafed unto them, and that assembly shall become the center of the divine blessings. The host of divine confirmation shall come to their aid, and they shall day by day receive a new effusion of spirit.
John?
In another passage, Abdu'l-Baha states, man should weigh his opinions with the utmost serenity, calmness, and composure. Before expressing his own views, he should carefully consider the views already advanced by others. If he finds that a previously expressed opinion is more true and worthy, he should accept it immediately and not willfully hold to an opinion of his own. By this excellent method, he endeavors to arrive at unity and truth. Opposition and division are deplorable. Therefore, true consultation is a spiritual conference in the attitude and atmosphere of love. Spiritual conference in the attitude of atmosphere of love. Members must love each other in the spirit of fellowship in order that good results may be forthcoming. Love and fellowship are the foundation. In the above passage, Abdu'l-Baha speaks of true consultation in terms of a spiritual conference undertaken in the attitude and atmosphere of love. He then goes on in the continuation of the passage cited below to provide us with an example of one such conference in the meeting of the disciples of Christ following his ascension. The consultation Abdu'l-Baha describes, of course, took place under a particular set of circumstances, and the views expressed and the decisions reached were specific to the historical moment. Although our concern here is not the issue the disciples discussed, the manner in which they consulted, as recounted by Abdu'l-Baha, enables us to identify some of the characteristics of what he considers a spiritual consultation, and not the mere voicing of personal views in parliamentary opposition and debate.
And may I suggest, before reading this passage, we review that prior quotation and think about how there's certain things in that quotation that you can underline. What are the steps we should take in consultation? And that will help you a great deal when you go to answering a question at the end of that. So you might want to look at that again. So maybe someone could read that, those two passages again, and then think about them as we're reading the next one.
So I'll read the one on page 2. They must, when coming together, turn their faces to the kingdom on high and ask aid from the realm of glory. Right? So there's one thing. They must then proceed with the utmost devotion, courtesy, dignity, care, and moderation to express their views. There's the second thing. They must in every matter search out the truth and not insist on their own opinions. Third thing. For stubbornness and persistence in one's views will lead ultimately to discord and wrangling, and the truth will remain hidden. The honored members must, with all freedom, express their own thoughts, and that's 4, and it is nowise permissible for one to belittle the thought of another. Nay, he must with moderation set forth the truth. And should differences of opinion arise, a majority of voices must prevail. That's number 5, right? And all must obey and submit to the majority. It is again not permitted that any one of the honored members object to or censure, whether in or out of the meeting, any decision arrived at previously. So that's 6, right? Though that decision be not right, for such criticism would prevent any decision from being enforced. In short, whatsoever thing is arranged in harmony and with love and purity of motive, its result is light, and should the least trace of estrangement prevail, the result shall be darkness upon darkness. Should they endeavor to fulfill these conditions, the grace of the Holy Spirit shall be vouchsafed unto them, and that assembly shall become the center of divine blessings. The hosts of divine confirmation shall come to their aid, and they shall, day by day, receive a new effusion of spirit. And so somebody said, and when we were studying this too, there's no room for political correctness here, and there is no minority opinion.
A lot different than what we're seeing in our
That's right,
country
no
today.
minority opinions here.
Want me to read it?
Yes.
Man should weigh his opinions with the utmost serenity, calmness, and composure. So that's 1. Before expressing his own views, he should carefully consider the views already advanced by others. That's 2. If he finds that a previously expressed opinion is more true and worthy, he should accept it immediately and not willfully hold to an opinion of his own. That's 3. By this excellent method, he endeavors to arrive at unity and truth. Opposition and division are deplorable. Therefore, true consultation is spiritual conference in the attitude and atmosphere of love. Members must love each other in the spirit of fellowship in order that good results may be forthcoming. Love and fellowship are the foundation. Okay.
That's 4. That would be 4.
Where do you want the 4 to be?
Love and
Love and
fellowship
fellowship.
Okay.
Okay. You
are
good
the
with that?
foundation.
And
so,
there's 5.
Here, Abdu'l-Baha, you can read that, John, too. It talks about this example of the disciples.
The most memorable instance of spiritual consultation was the meeting of the disciples of Jesus Christ upon the mount after his ascension. They said, Jesus Christ has been crucified, and we have no longer association and intercourse with him and his physical body. Therefore, we must be loyal and faithful to him. We must be grateful and appreciate him, for he has raised us from the dead. He has made us wise. He has given us eternal life. What shall we do to be faithful to him? And so they consulted. One of them said, we must detach ourselves from the chains and fetters of the world. Otherwise, we cannot be faithful. The others replied, that is so. Another said, either we must be married and faithful to our wives and children, or serve our Lord free from all these ties. We cannot be occupied with the care and provisions for families and at the same time herald the kingdom in the wilderness. Therefore, let those who are unmarried remain so, and those who who have married provide means of sustenance and comfort for their families, and then go to spread the message of the glad tidings. There was no dissenting voices. All agreed, saying, "That is right." A third disciple said, "To perform worthy deeds in the kingdom, we must be further self-sacrificing. From now on, we should forego ease and bodily comfort, accept every difficulty, forget self, and teach the cause of God." This found acceptance and approval by all the others. Finally, a fourth disciple said, "There is still another aspect to our faith and unity. For Jesus' sake, we shall be beaten, imprisoned, and exiled. They may kill us. Let us receive this lesson now. Let us realize and resolve that though we are beaten, banished, cursed, spat upon, and led forth to be killed, we shall accept all of this joyfully, loving those who hate and wound us." All disciples replied, "Surely we will." And it is agreed, this is right. Then they descended from the summit of the mountain, and each went forth in a different direction upon his divine mission. This was true consultation. This was spiritual consultation, and not the mere voicing of personal views in parliamentary opposition and debate.
So you can review that and go back to those numbers that you wrote and see where they did each of those things. And why Abdu'l-Baha said this is true consultation.
One thing I did see missing in that section 2 about the steps was the need for a witness to a standard. Peoples have different opinions on what truth is and what is going to be the standard that would prove one truth over another opinion. And I think that by using a divine standard, looking at where the divine standard came from, the manifestations of God, I think that was an important step being left out. In other words, if you've got people just gathered together, and if each individual had different aspects of their understanding, what constitutes the truth? Unless it be compared to a higher standard. And I think what we have here in this passage is the disciples of Christ were going back to the standard that Christ had given them and shown them. And that was the foundation of that consultation.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that number one, turn their faces to the kingdom on high? So that's where we turn for the standard, right? We turn to the laws of Baha'u'llah.
And then also when we say, what does the guidance say? Whenever we have a cluster reflection meeting, we're turning to the guidance, right? Well, the guidance is from the authority of our faith, and the authority of our faith is the writings of the manifestation of God, of the Bab and Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l-Baha and Shoghi Effendi, and also the guidance from the Universal House of Justice in this day. So we are always referring to the guidance, right? And so, yeah, it's not, Abdu'l-Baha didn't in his quote say, go back and refer to each thing that you do, each issue that you consult upon to the guidance, but it's there in turning your faces to on high. And what is the principle involved? What does Baha'u'llah say about it? What is the guidance about that particular principle? So that really is the standard, right? It's the spiritual consultation has to have divine guidance as a standard, right? Because otherwise it's just what we see today. Conjecture.
And I think that's where the value comes in, is that if you have 10 people looking at that divine standard and 10 people offer their opinions on what that divine standard means, it has a tendency to open up the understanding in even a greater way.
Exactly. And so number one is one of those that I'd like you to do on your own in terms of the workbook, because you'll have to flip back to the pages and revisit the quotations, or do it as a couple together,
I found it very helpful to take a picture of the page so I didn't have to flip back and forth. So, it's another way to do it.
I refer to that section number 1 as being an example of rote learning. And rote learning, all you have to do is fill in the blank with the right word and you've passed, but it doesn't convey any kind of understanding.
Well, I have to differ with you because there are many, many ways of learning. And if you see the words put together in a different way, in a different sentence, kind of asking you to respond using the actual words that were in there, it's another chance for you to visit the guidance, to visit the words, and therefore for them to become more ingrained in us as the standard. So I don't say that it's just memorization without that. It's just another tool, another way that we can maybe revisit that guidance again and learn it again. So I cannot discount it as just rote memorization. It isn't. It's just revisiting the words, looking at them again. We know that people learn by hearing, they learn by seeing, they learn by tasting, they learn by smelling, they learn by actual volition and doing. We learn in many different ways. The more we can see and hear and the more we can involve all our senses in doing those things. So writing isn't, actually writing out the words is another way.
Touch. It's using your eyes and your sense of touch.
And
One thing about rote learning, if you're dealing with mathematics, rote comes in with multiplication tables. You have to understand, or you have to be able to spit it back before you can then start to apply the multiplication tables in areas of mathematics. So rote does have its place. But once that is understood, then what does it mean? What's the next step?
But the other thing that happens with rote, and I know this from being a cashier, if you have to look up each thing each time, you're going to start to memorize it because it's too much trouble to look it up. And so to teach rote multiplication tables, in my opinion, is not a good way to teach it. But to give kids a tape measure or a chart where they can look it up each time, they get tired of looking it up and they start memorizing it. And that's a far better method. And that's why I like this, because you do have that resource. You can flip back to it. You do fill it in. It's not you have to have it memorized. It's that you're using the resource and you're going to start remembering more.
They got Google.
Which is
They got calculators now.
lifelong learning, right?
Yeah.
So having thought through the above sequence of ideas, try to identify some of the characteristics of the meeting among Christ's disciples as recounted by Abdu'l-Baha that qualify it as a spiritual conference. So we read about that meeting and we read about what Abdu'l-Baha, and we marked 1, 2, 3, 4, what Abdu'l-Baha says is a spiritual conference. So can we identify on our own some of those?
Yeah, the sphere of love and fellowship.
Okay, love and fellowship.
They started by turning to their faces to the kingdom. They turned to Christ, and that was their very first thing, and how they could honor him.
What else?
Attachment.
Yeah, we talked about faithfulness and detachment.
They each expressed their own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
They were concerned about their goals from that point. What do they do as a result of the crucifixion and their relationship with Christ? What is their next step?
Mm-hmm. Obedience. And they gathered facts and assessed their situation, didn't they? That we're going to face persecution and we have to be forbearing and be ready for that.
They made different choices, but they live under the same rule.
Yeah, exactly. Unity. Unity in thought. Mm-hmm. What are some of the characteristics of a gathering that actually reaches some decision, but which cannot be considered a spiritual conference? Any examples people come up with?
Criticism of others' ideas for others.
Yeah, criticism. In and out of the meeting, even. Mm-hmm.
As a corollary to this, I've got a link on the online material to the world's worst public meeting.
There is something called that.
There is.
Yeah, let's see, where did you put that one?
And based upon what was just read here in terms of the quotes, by looking at this video, you'd be able to pick up the dissimilarities.
That would be opposite of a spiritual conference. That there are dissenting opinions, you know, something that comes up. You know, I'm just thinking the dissenting votes, even in the Supreme Court, right, are published, right? So this was so many dissenting, you know, votes and so on. And so, I mean, that's certainly not considered a spiritual
In other
consultation.
words, that talking about when you start descending voice, that sustain continuous disunity forever, because there's always disagreement, and somebody can choose that instead of the majority.
I'm thinking to a point that would be true if you try to pick one way or the other, but a dissenting view could be used for assessment and analysis to actually test the progress of the decision. If one objection is that if you go in this direction, it's going to cause this, and if the general agreement says we're going to go in this direction, you can use the dissension as a way in which to evaluate
True,
the quality.
but also people who want to perpetuate, sustain,
That's the problem.
and sustain disunity, they take the dissenting voice and they say, okay, see, this is the highest Supreme Court is saying this, but unfortunately a number was not reached. But we are going to take that part. The point is that we're giving a reason to perpetuate disunity. Whereas, okay, once the united, okay, the decision made, the decision can be written in the editorial of New York Times, but not in the Supreme Court's document. I mean, that would be more in line with what God's plan is in terms of unity. I think the standard that you are looking for is really unity. In all these principles that we refer to, if you look deep down, is unity. And the unity, beneath the unity, is love. You know, if you cannot have love, how can you reach unity? So everything at the end of the pinpoint of this middle of a circle is love, and it moves up to all these different things.
And so, let's move on to section 3. And so for section 2, I titled that section myself, Spiritual Conference or Prescription for Consultation. And section 3, what consultation is not. Because Abdu'l-Baha tells us really in the passages that we're going to read, and the Guardian, what it isn't. And then we have a chance to give our opinions of what examples we see around us and know. Okay, so I think it was Umberto's turn to read.
Section 3.
Yes.
One way of gaining insight into the nature of Baha'i consultation is to consider the difference between the approach described in the above passages and some of the method of decision-making current in society today. Abdu'l-Baha himself has noted the following. In this cause, consultation is of vital importance, but spiritual conference and not the mere voicing of personal views is intended. In France, I was present at the session of the Senate, but the experience was not impressive. Parliamentary procedure should have for its object the attainment of the light of truth upon questions presented and not furnish a battleground for opposition and self-opinion. Antagonism and contradiction are unfortunate and always destructive to truth. In the parliamentary meeting mentioned, altercation and useless quibbling were frequent. The result, mostly confusion and turmoil. Even in one instance, a physical encounter took place between two members. It was not consultation, but comedy. As far back as in 1923, the Guardian warned the Baha'i community in Iran. Beware, lest the follow order of the parties and peoples of foreign lands in the West, and their pernicious methods such as intrigues, party, politics, and propaganda practice, which are abhorrent, even the name, should ever reach the Baha'i community, exert any influence whatsoever upon the friends, and thus bring all spiritually to naught.
Could you define quibbling?
Quibbling?
Arguing, it's another word for arguing, little, small.
Small argue.
Yeah,
That's smart.
Small argue.
like your kids quibbling over who gets to sit in which seat in the car, not a big fight.
It's like Poofy say, I want McDonald's, and Isaac say, I want Wendy's, and then they'll stop.
Yeah, that's quibbling.
Nothing.
Where is the word?
Okay.
Okay. When we look around us and see how people come together to reach agreement on a course of action, we often detect characteristics that are not in keeping with Abdu'l-Baha.
Yeah.
The depiction of true consultation. Below are some practices we may find. Try to identify one or more ideas from the passages presented in this and the previous section that clearly show how each practice departs from the Baha'i approach.
Okay, so why don't we do this? There are 8 of them. So Sean, Mariella, Marlena, Umberto, John, Tana, Christy, and Deb. Take A, each of you take A through H. So Sean A, Mariella B, Marlena C, and just read it and think about it. And so Umberto is D, John is E, and Tana F, Christy G, and Deb H. So in terms of the instructions that we were given, and then just I'm going to go to the washroom.
Intrigues. So this is here.
Oh, thank you.
No, she's B.
Oh,
okay.
You do what, Susan?
What?
You do what?
Yeah, I just need to go to the bathroom, but someone was in there. So.
Eso como tú, una propaganda política, por ejemplo, sumar los no sé, soportar, o sea, soportar una idea por un punto de vista a través de una campaña propagandística. Ese producto, esto puede ser peligroso, como tú puedes incluso borrachos porque tenemos que separar de depende de muchas cosas, pero es en sentido malo. Por ejemplo, aquí dice una consulta.
Okay, Sean, are you ready to talk about A?
Yeah, I guess so.
He's
Okay.
B with me.
No, he's not.
No, I mean,
He's A all by
Oh,
himself.
he's
You're
A.
B with me.
Alright.
as I was reading back, I was seeing that I was looking at self-opinion and one who's going to try and just is not being spiritual about this by any means.
Okay, so let's read A. Is forming a group identified with one point of view and attempting to win over as many people as possible to that point of view. Can you think of examples of how that would happen?
I misread that down. Forming a group identified by one point of view.
So an
I can't
example
see
of
it
that
from
would
what I
be,
read.
no, it wouldn't be in here. If this is out of your head,
Right, I
things
can't-
you observe.
I
So
just,
an example of that would be TV ads, propaganda, partisan politics,
mhm.
right? So those are all examples of forming a group. So you have a special interest group for this. And so our group is going to do everything we can to make this happen. And we don't care what anyone else thinks. That would be an example of it.
The total opposite of what we want to do.
Right,
Right.
right. So, and that's what this whole section is about, is the opposite. So Marlena, agreeing to support the proposal of a group with the understanding that they will return the favor. What are your examples?
Marlene had the C.
Well, this is,
Marlene had the C, I think.
No,
See, for
Mariella
me,
used
Mariella.
Mariella is on
He
the-
said wrong, she said the
this-
wrong name,
okay, good.
sorry.
entonces
No,
para
it's
mí-
Mariela, it's Mariela.
Okay.
So, yeah, yes. So you're going to give your answers for this one.
Particularly between intrigues, loving, stretching each other back.
Okay. So lobbying, scratching each other's backs, party politics.
Yeah, party. Yeah, I did.
Okay. Marlena, C.
C,
That's C.
Mobilizing support for a
Mobilizing
particular
support.
view through propaganda campaigns. What would be examples of that?
Well, depende de some consult, no? The people, they knows the material specific.
I don't understand what you're saying.
¿Qué quieres entender?
Bueno, que la propaganda depende que consultaste por depende, pues.
You're thinking that the propaganda,
Yes.
the propaganda is something that
Depende.
it depends. Could be something
Yeah.
in a good way, or could be
Mhm.
a bad message behind. Then
The people, they know.
like for instance,
Mhm.
do you see some of that somewhere? Like how about in Venezuela? or in-
yes,
So give me an example.
que te dé un ejemplo. Por ejemplo, Chávez tenía que decir Chávez, por ejemplo,
Ser pobre
uno libre y uno
ser pobre es
Ser
malo.
pobre es
Ser
malo.
rico es malo.
For example, there is a slogan from the previous president Chavez that say, "Be rich is bad."
Oh,
Then the people internalize this, and it was a propaganda that generated destruction.
Right. So in this culture,
Yeah.
fake news. You know, so
Fake news.
so there's all these things you see on Facebook that isn't even the truth.
Yeah.
It's just fake news. That would be an example of that. So they
Exactly.
make up stories and put it out there.
Yes.
and D,
D is manipulating information to place a particular proposal in a favorable or unfavorable. It's probably correlated with the same It's not a propaganda, but it's a particular proposal, right?
Mhm.
Then could be a proposal for a political party that could be good or not. Could be a manipulation of any brand on the commercial TV or something. Health products that are not healthy, something like that.
So,
John?
so in the health industry, for example, they might say that a certain medication is necessary for you, or there could be laboratory tests and they report incorrectly that you have a disease that you don't have and now you need this medicine. So that might be an example of it.
Yeah, I think your hair product thing is a good thing too.
Yeah.
John, E?
Using a position of authority or personal prestige to push through a proposal. The Baha'i aspect is all members are to input their ideas without censure or without belittling. And I thought of Rice University's research program, PhD, that had their academic position through their research determining that cigarettes do not cause harm, physical harm to the body.
How about movie stars telling you what to do?
Which one?
No, I think that they're influence peddling, right? I mean, using their position of influence because they're known figures to promote one way or another, or one particular person or one particular party over another party and so on. Standing in there, that's, I mean, their personal prestige they're using.
And it could be smaller community like your boss, you know, so you have to do it because the boss said so. And so because he's the boss, he has influence. Now we have, you know, clergy, for example, saying this is what you have to do, and if you want to be a member of this organization, you have to follow what I say. To me, that would be another example.
Hannah,
focusing attention on the shortcomings of the character of someone with whose ideas one is not in agreement. An example I had would be for the presidential election, was running for president, calling each other names and pointing out what that one did wrong and that one does wrong, and it clearly departs from what the Baha'u'llah and the Baha teaching, that we should consult with an attitude of love and fellowship, or meet with one another, love and fellowship.
and G. Chrissy.
Using delaying tactics or crowding the consumptive process between issues in order to postpone a decision that is not going in the direction one desires. U.S. Congress.
Filibuster.
Yeah.
Putting one's own wishes before others, useless fiddling, bringing up or changing rules in midstream, or requiring unnecessary data from the other side, changing definitions, restriction of participants in the process.
Wow. Yeah, very good examples. And H, Deb.
Publicly criticizing a majority decision and undermining its implementation, holding back onto their opinions and criticizing the outcome to hopefully change people's minds.
I see that in social media all the time. You know, a decision's been made, this is the new law, this is the way it's going to be, and then everybody has to comment on why that's wrong. And so we don't make any progress because we're too busy fighting against it.
The legitimizing authority, the authority
Yes.
here be
Yes.
legitimized.
Authority. Okay.
So we have 15 minutes.
Yeah, and so I think we're going to stop here in section 4, and and I'm going to pass out a few things. But let's talk about next time, by June 1st, when we get together. Let me just look ahead. Definitely, if you could read through section 4 and 5 and 6, and on page 12 in section 6, there's one of those activities, again, that help build our understanding of the quotation, and that is number 1 on page 6. If you could do that. On page 12, sorry, in
12.
section 6. Number 1 on page 12 in section 6.
And 50?
13,
Do this ahead of time.
Only 50?
Yeah.
50 more?
Sorry, what's your question, Mariella?
no,
Do this ahead of time. Answer these
12 and 13. It's 6.
Section 6,
Right,
page
but
12.
We'll do this together.
Number
this,
1.
Do this
Okay,
one
look at
here.
this.
One, A through F,
Only number 1.
number 1.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And so please do that. And I think if we read through 7 as well. So if we read 4 through 7, that's a lot, but we are not meeting again section 4 through section 7. So up till page 16, read till page 16.
16. Here.
60. I'm going to show you.
Okay, 4 through 7.
16.
And then there are 2 of those,
Sentences, you got to finish 7.
We finish.
Finish 7.
Finish all the way through there.
to
But you
read
don't have to fill in all the answers other than that one.
Right. So let me
the 2, the one from
Yeah.
section 2 as well.
Okay.
Okay? So is that good? Because now I'm going to pass out a few things and,
And then are we meeting on the 26th or skipping that week?
no, we're only meeting the 4 times that I've told you so far. Okay?
So now it made.
No.
No, here's
Oh.
June.
We didn't, we had originally, I said, give me 4 dates that work,
Right.
and those were the 4 dates that worked for Marlena and Umberto, and those
So it's
were the 4 that are now set. We may have to put more, depending on how we move.
But as of now, we're the 1st, 8th, and 22nd.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm passing 2 things out. If you take one and pass on, Peggy needs one too. Put one here.
And
Here, I'll do it. Go quick.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. And then this is on your.
Oh, you're starting with case 2.
Yeah, because we don't have time to do it. And you had 2 already. Did you get one of this, one of this,
Thank you.
one of this, one of this? And then you guys need these.
CV steps, resources,
Okay, so these are some activities that John put together. Did I give you the 2 sheets? Oh, I must have kept one. Here, can I have, share with Becca's. I guess I didn't print enough. Not that, this one. You 2 share. Okay, so John put these together. If you've had a chance to look at some of the links on the online material, as I mentioned oh, you have that one? Okay. As I mentioned in in my little letter, there are some supplemental materials, but this is kind of a little preview of what section 16 of this book kind of brings these all together, okay, for us in terms of this handout, Baha'i consultation procedural steps. The handout says the prerequisite is love and unity among the members, right? And then number 1 is prayer and meditation. Number 2, identifying the issue. Number 3, ascertaining the facts. Number 4, read the holy verses relevant to the problem. So again, go back to the guidance, right? And number 5, everybody should participate there in the consultation with all those characteristics that Abdu'l-Baha outlined for us. And then you come to a decision, okay? And so John has put a couple of scenarios, but I knew we wouldn't have time to do everything, but it would be a good idea for us to practice. So I think Behrs and through Tana can be in one group, and this side in another group, okay? And we'll do 2 groups of however many that is, 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 5, okay? So we'll be together here, and so break into groups. And this, read through the steps of the Baha'i consultation process is what I've just printed out for you, those steps, okay? Character virtues list, I didn't print that out, but I think we can all amongst us list many different virtues, and if we refer back to those passages that Abdu'l-Baha told us that we should have, considering patience and humility and love and purity of motive, we can call those to mind.
The character and virtues list, I believe, they're online, and I think they're aligned with section number 3 or section number 4. So if you want to download those and print them out, access it there. No, in fact, that's going to be case scenario number 2. If you bring on case scenario number 2, you'll see this list and the hyperlinks up in here.
Yeah. So anyway, so we can just get together here and break into our 2 little groups and read the scenario and talk.